All right, so this is an improved walkthrough of the geography. I'm going to go straight down the list. And this time, because I've been helped in ways to make it more obvious why I'm telling you things, I'm going to do a little different. So first, the three regions. Manchuria. Manchuria is the chicken's head. It's this region up here. Here's North Korea's border. Manchuria is the chicken's head. So this whole region is Manchuria. It was barbarians. It was semi-nomad people because it's too north up here. And the people that lived in Manchuria are called Manchurians, but also Manchu. Why are they important? Because Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, the Qing, okay, the Qing dynasty was Manchurian, foreign, northern nomadic barbarians who conquered China, because Beijing is right here. They conquered China and they ruled the whole of China for the last dynasty. Okay, so the Qing dynasty is a foreign dynasty. That would be like Native Americans conquering Washington, D.C. and ruling Washington, D.C. So the Qing are Manchurians, and that's Manchuria. That's why that's important. Your dynasty song, the last one, Qing. That's people from this, they're foreigners. So that's Manchuria. Mongolia, this area. Song, Yuan, the Mongols. Again, nomads, northern nomads, barbarians. They conquered China in the Yuan dynasty. Song, Yuan, that's the Mongols. So China, you see in our song, two of the last three dynasties were foreign conquerors who ruled China for 300 years. Well, the Manchus ruled it for 300 years. The Mongols ruled it for 100 years. Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, those were Mongols. So, and then the Central Plain. A lot of people were confused on this, so I'm glad I'm doing it again. We're talking the plain that goes along the Yellow River. Well, it's central because this is where they're farming. This is where their civilization started. This is where the Xia and the Shang and the Zhou built their first cities. China's earliest cities are along the cradle of Chinese civilization, which is the central plain of the Yellow River. Okay? All right? Seriously, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So this plain right here, and you can see it's flat land, so that's the lowest elevation, the first step of the three steps. This plain is the central plain because it's the earliest and most ancient heartland of China, the Yellow River, China's sorrow. The plain along it is the central plain. That's why China proper, which grows as China expands, the earliest and smallest part of China proper is the oldest, the Yellow River plain. And you can see that as dynasties go, China proper expands with later dynasties and expands more until it expands all the way down to here. So the China proper means this is us, our real Chinese, our culture's here. But the central plain is always the same. It's the plain around the Yellow River. So this green flat area, that's the plain. Now we'll do mountains. We're still in the central plain, and you notice south of the Yellow River, that's Mount Tai, China's sacred mountain. Confucius is born around here. Confucius climbed Mount Tai, so did Yu, Yao Shun and Yu. I mean, it's crazy stuff. If you ever go to China, go there. You'll be amazed, and most tourists know nothing about it. I've got pictures I hope to show you guys at some point. So that's Mount Tai, unbelievable. And the other mountains here, of course, the Himalayas. Now, a lot of people put the Himalayas up here. No, the Himalayas are right on the border because countries often draw borders at natural geographic features where it makes sense. Okay, this is where our territory stops. We can't climb the mountain and go to the other side of the Himalayas. We draw our borderline here. So the Himalayas are right along this border. This is Nepal right here. And this region is Tibet. So the Tibetans live on the Himalayan plateau, the roof of the world. So two mountains again, the Tai over there in the central plain, and then Himalayas here. Three steps. Don't be confused. We're talking about a staircase type image because China's geography is the lowest level is the green because that's flatland, that's plain, that's sea level. This is where they farm. All the green is where they farm. This darker yellow, light orange, this is the second area of elevation. So you can see that really all of this mountainous area down here, this is the second level because it's mountainous. And it's still mountainous here, or high, elevated. You can see that it's over a mile high. That lighter yellow is 1,000 meters, 1,600 meters is a mile. So when you get to this darker yellow or orange here, that's over a mile high. America talks about Denver being a mile high city. Well, look at this. This brown, all of this stuff is mile high. A lot of China is mile high. And then finally the third step is the dark orange. So that's over 2 miles high. The reason that that's interesting is geography destiny, because China has 5 times as many people, but it only has 1/3 of the farmland. Look how little of China is actually easy to farm. That's the green. Up here it's too far north to farm. That's the Manchus. They're nomads or living in tents. So China has 1/3 of the farming area. This is really interesting if you think about it. They have 1.4 billion people. America has 0.3 billion or 300 million. So China has almost 5 times as many people as America, but only 1/3 of the farmland to feed them. That puts so much pressure on them to use every bit of energy and intelligence they can to grow enough food to feed themselves. America, again, has 3 times more farmland than China. 40% versus 13%. This puts amazing pressure on the government to keep order so that people are growing food, enough to feed everybody. Especially with the Yellow River flooding, because it's China's sorrow. We talked about the Gobi Desert, which is here. And so when the Gobi Desert winds blow this direction, they hit the mountains right through here along the Yellow River. Notice the Yellow River does that weird elbow right there. It goes due north. That's the specific shape I was wanting you to pick up on. It just flows pretty much southeast or southwest, and then straight west, and then just bam, this hairpin turn. And you can see why. Water is seeking the lowest ground. Well, it turns around here and it goes up there, and okay, it's lower here, and it's going downhill, 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 and then it finds this river, this mountain gorge, and plunges through there. Water won't flow uphill, so it's not going to go this way. It flows down into the plain and out. These mountains here pick up the lowest soil from the Gobi Desert as it blows and hits the mountains. The soil is as fine as flour, as in like bread flour, baby powder, and so when it collects on those mountaintops and it rains, it goes into the river. As it goes into the river here, the river current is fast. It's going downhill through the mountain gorges. But when it hits the plain, it slows down. And when it slows down, that lowest soil settles to the riverbed rises, and the Yellow River floods over and over and over, pretty much every 2 years for all of China's history, causing famine, causing farmland to be destroyed. The Yellow River even changes courses. Sometimes it flows down here. It actually ends up flowing to here, so this disappears. And so think about all the farmland along there that was depending on this water to irrigate, and suddenly the river just disappeared because it went this way. We have no water, we're starving, we can't grow our crops. Down here, we're underwater because there was no river here yesterday, and it's changed course. China's sorrow. All is geography destiny. So how does this make China geographically destined? We need a strong ruler, a dictator in Western terms, to organize us and force us to control this Yellow River. Dredge, meaning dig out the river bed to make it deeper, and also build dams along it so that we don't die of starvation because of floods. So that's the Yellow River, that's the Gobi Desert, that's China's sorrow. The cradle of China civilization is also, it's a double-edged sword. Now, the Wei River. Notice the Yellow River at that elbow. The Wei just is it keeps going straight. The Wei is important because this is where the Zhou dynasty was, Shang-Zhou. So the Zhou dynasty was a tribe here. Look how protected they are. Mountains here, and the original China of the Shang and Zhou in the central plain. So all the cities of the earliest China, the Shang dynasty especially, were around here. And the Zhou overthrew them because the Zhou and later the Qin, Shang, Zhou, Warring States, Qin was around here on the Wei River too. So the two of the most important dynasties of China were both located on this little dinky Wei River, and were able to conquer all of China proper. If you look at the map, it makes sense why. We are so defended. Nobody can attack us because of this mountain, so we can't be invaded from the south, right? And nobody can invade us from the north because there's mountains here. But we can easily mass our troops and bam, hit, attack, conquer, and if things start turning bad, we can run back, and when they follow us, they run into a trap because we can ambush whatever, right? So this is, the Wei River is geographically really lucky because you're defended. Nature is defending you from invasion. At the same time, this plain is really easy to invade. I can go up here and sneak around that way. I can go down here and sneak up that way, right? This is really hard to defend, the central plain. The Wei River is easy to defend. And that's why the Wei is important. It's going to come back over and over and over. Most of China's early capitals, the terracotta warriors are here from the, you know, the guy who built the Great Wall. So the Wei River. And finally, the Yangtze River. For those of you who don't know China, Shanghai is right here on the mouth of the Yangtze River. So it's one of the 5 longest rivers in the world. Goes on forever and ever. If you just remember this big lip right here on China's coast, you'll see a smaller lip above it. That's the Yangtze's mouth. All right, so those are the 3 rivers. As we said before in class, the northern area obviously is colder. It's drier also, which is not obvious, so it rains less up here. So that means that you can't grow rice here. You're growing wheat and harder grains that grow up north. Down south at the Yangtze, that's warmer and wetter, and so this is our rice region down here. This is the rice basket. And but again, remember, the earliest part of China, this is really the heart of ancient China, the yellow. The Yangtze in the early stages was wild frontier land. The 2 deserts, the Gobi, where I talked about it with that less soil, the west soil up here. This yellow region over here, the Taklamakan. Taklamakan. The easiest thing to remember that is every letter, every vowel in that word is an A. Taklamakan, right? Taklamakan, this desert. Why is that important? A, it's a massive desert, and if you want to travel to China from Europe or from Central Asia, Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, it's hard to get to the Central Plain because you got to go through desert, or you got to go through the Gobi Desert. So China is geographically walled off by deserts because they're hard to cross. You'll die of thirst or heat exhaustion. So these 2 deserts are like a wall. They isolate China from the rest of Asia. The Himalayas are another wall. They isolate China from India, which is right next door. But India and China were both 2,000 years old before they ever discovered each other because of this geographic isolation of the Himalaya Mountains. So look at China. It's walled in from the rest of the civilizations, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, Greece, Rome, because of all of its geographic barriers. 2 deserts and the Himalayas, just keeping all the foreigners out. So China, for the longest time, for 2,000 years, as I said, their first 2,000 years during the Shang, Zhou, Qin, and Han, had no idea that India existed, that there was another civilization on Earth that could write and have a government and all this stuff. They thought that everybody was like these barbarian nomads up here. I'm recording. So they thought we are the only civilization on this planet for 2,000 years. That's a long time. And they defined themselves as civilized because everywhere they looked, they saw savages, nomads, people who didn't have cities. They're wandering around, following goats, right, and cows, because they can't grow food to have a city. So they're saying, look at those primitive nomads. Look at us. We're civilized. Nowhere else on the planet is civilized but us, because they didn't know, because of the geographic isolation. So that affects their culture. They think that they're the only civilized people and everybody else is a barbarian. Is geography destiny? We are the only civilization. We are isolated from all the others, so we don't know that there are other ones. Our river floods, we need a dictator, on and on. The 3 seas are easy. The Yellow River flows into the Yellow Sea. That's easy. So this area up here is the Yellow Sea. The area right to the east of China is simply called the East China Sea. That's easy. The south is the South China Sea. This is a really important region right now. A lot of people are wondering if wars between China, the Philippines, Taiwan, Singapore, and Vietnam are going to happen over all the resources in the South China Sea. There's a lot of oil and natural gas under this ocean. And so China needs all this energy for its growth. And America is starting to sort of flex its muscles and try to tell China that it's going to protect other countries who want access to it too. So the South China Sea is a living issue right now. Hong Kong, look at this little lip here, and the river, the Pearl River, the Shi River that goes into it. Hong Kong is like right here. Whoops. Yeah, like right there. On that little lip there. Going back to Tibet, we've already said Tibet's there along the Himalayas, so this whole region. Siberia, further north up here in Russia, this whole part of Russia is Siberia. It's steppe land, steppe, S-T-E-P-P-E. That's grassland. It's northern grassland. If you just picture tall, thin grass, green, growing over just rolling flatland as far as the eye can see, where pastures of nomads, followed by nomads, are just cropping the grass, that's what steppe land is. So it's the northern area that the nomads roam around in, letting their herds eat the grass. They can't farm there, but it's enough for goats to eat the grass. So you've got nomads roaming around up here in the north because you can't farm up here. And that means that the only neighbors China has are nomads who are good on horseback and good at war because they're always running into other nomads with other herds and they're fighting over pasture land. So China's northern neighbors are really good warriors, and they occasionally wander down here into China and see this civilization with incredible cities and a lot of food, and they think, and not a strong military compared to them, and they think how easy it would be for us to invade and plunder. So this is big for China. We talked about the Loess soil coming from the Gobi already, right? Okay, and China's sorrow. Vietnam. Simply put, there it is right there. If you follow China's south coast, it hits as its south coastal border neighbor, Vietnam right there. And Vietnam goes on down. It's a coastal state. It's a skinny little sliver that goes on down. Thailand's here, Cambodia's here, on and on. So to just wrap up, to repeat, the big question is geography destiny. Yeah, and the biggest reason is geographic isolation. We have a desert and then nomadic steppe land up here, so no civilization can contact us from the frozen northern Siberia. No civilizations, there are plenty over to the west, but none of them ever contact China because of the deserts. India is right next door, but they never contact. Geographic isolation because of the Himalayas. Yep.
I thought this was Thailand.
Thailand? Here. Taiwan.
Oh.
Here. Yeah, good. No, welcome to Asia. And that's today's ROC, by the way, but that's for later. There was a civil war. The ROC lost, the communists won, but the ROC ran to Taiwan and said, we're still China. So there's two Chinas right now. This is the capitalist China, and this is the communist China now. So that's about it. Yeah, and of course you can't travel to China across the Pacific Ocean, so you got the ocean as its other geographic barrier. Down here, it is easier to come into China, but notice it's still mountainous in the south, and there was not a lot of civilization down here to compare to China. So everywhere they looked, we are the Middle Kingdom. We're the center of the world because we're the only civilization that we're aware of. They thought they were the only civilization on the planet for 2,000 years. And that's about it. Thanks for waiting. I can turn this thing off now.